One thing I did that helped me destroy the biggest enemy I ever had to face. My earnings were so small during the first year. I took a part-time job coaching the Swarthmore College baseball team. One day I received an invitation from the YMCA of Chester to come down there and speak on the 3 C's: clean living, clean character, and clean sport. As I read that letter, I realized how utterly impossible it would be for me to accept their invitation. In fact, it suddenly dawned on me that I didn't have the courage to talk convincingly to even one man, let alone 100. It was then I began to realize that before I could ever hope to make good in anything, I would have to overcome this timidity and fear of talking to strangers. The next day, I went around to the YMCA 1421 Arch Street, Philadelphia, and told the educational director why I thought I was a failure. I asked if they had any course that would help me. He smiled and said, "We have exactly what you need. Come on back with me." I followed him down a long hallway. We entered a room where a group of men were seated. One man had just finished speaking, and another man was up on his feet criticizing the speaker. We sat down in the back of the room. The educational director whispered to me, "This is a public speaking course." I had never heard of a public speaking course. Just then, another man got up and began to make a speech. He was terrible. In fact, he was so terrible. He encouraged me. I said to myself, scared and dumb as I am, I couldn't be much worse than that. Pretty soon, the man who had been criticizing the previous speaker came back. I was introduced to him. His name was Dale Carnegie. I said, "I want to join." He said, "Our course is about halfway through. Perhaps you would rather wait. We'll be starting another class in January." "No," I said, "I want to join right now." "All right." Mr. Carnegie smiled and said, as he took my arm, "You're the next speaker." Of course, I was trembling. In fact, I was terrified. But somehow I managed to tell them why I was there. It was pretty terrible, but terrible as my thought was. It was a tremendous victory for me. Prior to that, I couldn't even stand in front of a crowd and say, "How do you do?" This happened 30 years ago to the month in which I am writing these lines. But that night will always stand out in my memory as the beginning of what proved to be one of the most important phases in my life. I enrolled for this training then and there and attended the weekly meeting regularly. 2 months later, I went down to Chester and made that speech. I had already learned that it was comparatively easy to talk about my own experience, so I told the audience at Chester about my experience in basketball, about my rooming with Miller Huggins, and about how I broke into the big league with Christy Mathewson pitching. I was astounded at the fact that I could keep going for almost half an hour, and I was even more astounded when 20 or 30 men came up afterward, shook my hand, and told me how much they had enjoyed. That was one of the biggest triumphs in my life. It gave me confidence as nothing else had ever done before. It all seemed like a miracle to me. It was a miracle. 2 months previously, I was afraid to talk to anyone in an official capacity. Now, here I was standing before a group of 100 people and holding their attention and enjoying the experience. I went out of the room and a changed man. I had myself better known in that group by 125-minute speech than I could have done by attending for months as a silent member. To my surprise, G. Borden Weeks, prominent Delaware County attorney who had acted as chairman of the meeting, walked down to the station with me. As I stepped on the train, he shook my hand, thanked me profusely, and invited me to come down again the first chance I could find. "One of my law partners and I have been talking about buying some life insurance," he said, as the train began to move. I found the chance to get back to Chester surprisingly soon. A few years after that, G. Borden Weeks became president of the Keystone Automobile Club, second largest automobile club in the world. Borden Weeks became one of my best personal friends, and In addition, one of my best centers of influence in business. As profitable as this connection became, it was nothing compared to the self-confidence and courage I gained through the training I got in taking this course in public speaking. It broadened my vision and stimulated my enthusiasm. It helped me to express my ideas more convincingly to another man, and it helped me destroy the biggest enemy I ever had to face, fear. I would urge any man or woman who is being held back by fear and who lacks courage and self-confidence to join the best public speaking course in his or her community. Don't join just any lecture course. Join only a course when you make a talk at every meeting because that's what you want, experience in speaking. If you cannot find a good practical course, do as Ben Franklin did. Ben recognized the great value of such training and he formed the junto right here in my hometown. Meet one night each week, appoint a new chairman to serve each week or month. If you can't get a good instructor, criticize each other as the junto did 200 years ago. I noticed that the members of our class who got the most benefit out of it and show the biggest improvement were those who put their training to some practical use. So, as poor as I was, I sought opportunity to speak in public. I nearly died of stage fright at first, but I did it somehow. I even taught a Sunday school class of 8 boys. Later, I accepted the superintendency of the Sunday school. I continued to be superintendent for 9 years. The effect of this training and experience carried over into my private conversation with individuals. This was one of the finest experiences I have ever had. All the leaders and successful men I've ever met have had courage and self-confidence, and most of them I notice are able to express themselves convincingly. The best way I ever found to help overcome fear and rapidly develop courage and self-confidence is by speaking before groups. I discovered that when I lost my fear of speaking to audience, I lost my fear of talking to individuals, no matter how big and important they were. This training and experience in public speaking got me out of my shell, opened my eyes to my own possibilities, and widened my horizons. It was one of the turning points in my career.